smarter than that. So, yeah, no, I'm not, yeah, like I said, I'm smarter than that. Check. Oh, that's better. There we go. Good. All right. How you guys doing? It's 6 o'clock. It's time to get rolling. We got a lot of good stuff for you tonight. Are y'all okay? Everybody good? Yeah? Are you good? Randy, are you good? Yeah? Daniel's good? Yeah? Todd, are you good? Yeah? Hey, you fluffy cougars back there, are y'all good? All right, good deal. Everybody's good. I'm glad everybody's good. Hey, I'm excited about tonight. And you guys are too, obviously. Man, this is a live crowd tonight, Kim. They're live. Hey, we're live too on the Facebook, right? So, and the YouTube at the same time. It's amazing what can happen. Anyway, so tonight I titled Kim's talk, and it's more than just this, but I titled it, "Are You Hormonal?" And and don't elbow the person next to you. Husbands, especially not you with your wives. It's a bad idea. All right. Andrea asked me if I was going to do this. I said I'm not touching hormones with a 10-foot pole. Right. I'm wiser than that as a man. Anyway, I teased you a little bit on the video yesterday. If you watched that, or if you got an email or something from me, that tonight's speaker, who's Kim Roberts, and we'll introduce her in a minute, that she's going to share with you the fact that, you know, some of you kind of hit a wall sometimes, right? And, you know, I talk a lot about losing weight is simple, and it's not always easy, right? And still the main things are, you've got to eat right, right? Even if your hormones are perfectly in balance, you still have to eat right. You still have to move a little bit. But when your hormones are out of balance, and when some other things you got going on with nutrient deficiencies and things like that are off, then it's going to make it even more difficult to lose weight. Who wants your weight loss journey to be more difficult? Nobody. It's crazy, isn't it? So this is super appropriate and super important for you. So I'm not going to take up a lot of her time. Let's get through some things we need to talk about. Who got a ribbon this week? Whoop, 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 whoop. Great job. So your ribbon this week was, I earned it, I'm worth it. Hey, if you're here, if you made it this far in the competition and you're still losing weight, you're earning these pounds now. So, you know, those people that started that might not be with us anymore, those first pounds are easy, right? Those first ones, like you pee those first few pounds off, right? I mean, but you're at the point now where any weight that you're losing is true weight. It's true, hopefully, fat that you're losing, right? And so at this point, if you're still losing, which a lot of you are like, yeah, woohoo, that means you earned this. It wasn't that free, easy weight. And so you're out there, you're getting after it, you're killing it, and it's awesome. So I'm proud of you for doing that. And you're proving to yourself that you're worth it. Because sometimes, I think part of the hardest part of this journey is going, you know, maybe I just deserve to be fat. Maybe I just deserve to be overweight. But you are proving to yourself right now that you're worth the journey. You're worth the effort. So keep on proving that. All right, so let's talk about Friday night. How many of you are signed up for the 5K? All right, so about 3/4 of the room. All right, so the first question is, if you didn't raise your hand, why not? I'm just kidding. I understand. The thing scheduling, I get it. It really is okay. So, but here's the other question. For those of you that did raise your hand, if it's raining and cool, raise your hand if you're still going to come. Okay, now, I mean, I want you to be honest. I'm not like, this isn't like one of those trick things where I'm going to go, well, what's your excuse, right? No, I mean, it's not that, okay? I mean, I'm serious. So we're trying to figure out, like, if it's raining and cool, who is still coming? All right, so 6 of you. Okay. Hey, it's true, right? So we're going to continue to watch the weather probably over the next 24 hours or so, and you should expect something sometime tomorrow with what we're going to do, because the people who are coming to perform musically, the people who are bringing their food trucks and that kind of thing, we want it to be worth it for them to take their time to do this. And if like 7 people show up, I don't think we've accomplished or achieved not only the purpose we've set out to, but also we're not supporting those folks that have come out to do this. So we may end up postponing the event, so just be aware of that. If we do postpone the event, I want to let you know we'll figure something out with the whole points situation. Okay, we'll change. We'll do something to make up for it between now and the end. It may not be something we can do all together. It may be like a special challenge you can do kind of on your own and self-report back in, something like that. So if we do have to postpone it, it will be after Lose to Win is over, this particular session. So, because that next weekend is not possible for folks planning. So, just stay tuned on that. And by the way, thank you for being honest. Those of you that said, yeah, I'm not coming if it's raining. Right, it's okay, I get it. So, I'll be honest, if it's raining, you know, and people will be there, I'll be there, but I won't want to be there. All right, I mean, that's just the honest truth. Okay, so last week we weren't here. We had our weigh-ins at the pharmacy, and we had on the leaderboard last week, we had several new folks that made the leaderboard last week, so we want to recognize them tonight, make sure they get their towel. So new on the leaderboard, I don't think she's here, is Susan Young. So give Susan a round of applause for being new last week. New on the leaderboard was Shirley Chung. Shirley, are you here? Where's Shirley? There you go, Shirley. Good job. Look at that. Look at that. All right, good job, Shirley. And then we have Sandra Eddings. Where's Sandra? Yeah, and I've got one for Richard as well, because he didn't get his a few weeks ago. You ready? Here we go. There you go. Good catch, Sandra. All right, very good. And then we have Kim Quick. Kim, new on the leaderboard last week. There's Kim. Very good. Uh-oh, this could be dangerous. Wake up, watch out. Here we go. Not too bad. Not too bad. Okay. All right, new on the leaderboard last week was Wendy Overeem. Where's Wendy? I saw her. Yeah, good job. Oh, all right. And then new on the leaderboard last week as well. She's not here tonight, but we'll get her her towel. It's Patty Klaus. So good job, Patty. So, our top losers for the ladies for last week's weigh-in. Number 10 was Miss Sue Bowen. Where's Sue? Good job, Sue. Number 9 was Miranda Branch. Where's Miranda? Good job, Miranda. Number 8, Miss Lori Lane. Where's Lori? There you are, there you are. Number 7, Laurie Ralston. There's Laurie, there you are, over there. Number 6 last week was Lachelle Farrell. She here tonight? There you are, all right. Okay, very good. Number 5 was Tammy Pettit last week. There you go, Tammy. Number 4, congratulations. New on the leaderboard. Is she here? Is she here? You guys are like, who is it? We don't know, right? But it's awesome to get to this point in the competition and have not to have been on the leaderboard yet and to make it. So that means you're still in there, you're still fighting, you're still getting after it. Number 4, Anna Weaver. There you go, Anna. Oh, that was close. There you go, good job. Woohoo, yeah, we connected. All right. Number 2 last week was Kim Page. Where's Kim? Good job, Kim. And new on the leaderboard, this is so cool. New on the leaderboard, she was number 1 last week. Amy Landers. I saw her earlier, she came right in. All right, so we'll give it to her next time. All right, guys, here we go. Richard Ames, congratulations, Richard. Give him a round of applause. Number 9, Todd Howell. Very good, Todd. Number 8 is Andrew Smith. Where's Andrew? Not here tonight? All right. Number 7 last week was Jason Red. There's Jason. So there you are in the floor back there. Number 6, Mo Torres last week. Good job, Mo. Number 5 is Dustin Welch. There you go, Dustin. Number 4, Mr. Steve Lowry. There you go, Steve. Number 3, Daryl Steele. I saw Daryl. Oh, there you are. Number 2 last week was Paul Peck. There's Paul. I got that in a second. Number 1 last week, Randy Clark. There you go, Randy. Good job, buddy. All right, ladies, overall leaders. This is the money. This is where the money is. Number 10, Abby Farrell. There you go, Abby. Number 9, Rachel Myers. Where's Rachel? Yeah, there you go. Number 8, Miranda Branch. Number 7, Susan Wilson. There you go, Susan. Number 6, Laura Nettles. Back there. Number 5, Helen Harrell. Number 4 overall is Dana Young. Where's Dana tonight? Dana, she's maybe doing weigh-ins. Number 3, Lori Lane. Number 2, Lachelle Farrell. And holding on at number 1 is Kim Page. So let me pause for a second. But it's not my normal gig. And if you were there, you saw why, right? Okay. So it's kind of funny. Sarah, my wife, sometimes gets concerned that, I come and spend a lot of time with a lot of women on Tuesday nights, right? There's you guys saw me try to do Zumba that she has no word. Like you guys, mine, because once you saw my moves, you realize I have none. So anyway, but sometimes you just got to do something that's a little different, have a little fun. And it was fun. Lisa Bass, thank you for coming and being a part. And she's hanging around, she's listening to the meeting, and she's going to do the 7 o'clock Fit Club as well. So if you weren't planning on staying, hey, that's the thing, you can stay, just do it, right? Who wants to see Joel Gregory do Zumba? Yeah. I do. Yeah. I do, right? Lisa does. I guarantee you Lisa does. Not that Lisa, but your Lisa, right? And Lisa might too, I don't know, right? Anyway. You guys are a tough crowd tonight. You were all jacked up when we first got started. Now you're just quiet. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, I messed you up when I started talking about hormones. They were like, oh no. Anyway, all right. Number 10 for the guys, overall leaders, Andrew Smith. Where are you? There you go. Number 9, Dan Henley. There's Dan right there. Number 8, Mr. Rick Mullins. Number 7, the king of Zumba, Joel Gregory. Number 6, Daryl Steele. Number 5, Dustin Welch. Number 4, Randy Clark. Number 3, Mo Torres. Number 2, Jason Red. And holding his number 1 spot is Paul Peck. You guys have lost 1,788 pounds. So we're getting close to that 2,000-pound goal. That's a ton of weight. And that's your averages you need to have. So teams are up to the minute, or up through Sunday. Team points, number 10 are Kelly's Bellies. Number 9 is Team Joy back there. Number 8 are the Fluffy Cougars. Let me hear you. All right. Number 7 is Waste Management. Where are you guys? There's you guys right there. Very good. Number 6, Dustin and the Dwindling Divas. Yeah. Number 5, the Magnificent 7. Woohoo! Right. Number 4, the Unrepentant Thinners. Number 3, Feral Fatties and Friends. Number 2 are Paul's Angels. And holding that number 1 spot. You're excited about that. You're like, yeah, that's where we're supposed to be, number 1, right? So anyway, so we got the Sweet 16 still going on. Continuing on, so today's weigh-ins will finish this round. So this week versus Paul Peck. Yeah. Laura Nettles versus Joel Gregory. Laura did Zumba tonight. So what's going on, Joel, right? And Miranda is totally blown. So since it's totally blown, I gotta be honest, this was totally random. But I'm kind of pulling for Randy and Emery at this point. Not that I don't love Miranda, Lori, and the rest of you, but I just think it'd be, because they would end up in the finals against each other. That'd be kind of, you guys, that'd be kind of fun to watch, wouldn't it? All right. So, Kim Roberts, come on up. Kim Kim is super dedicated to holistic health, right? She's a pharmacist. She doesn't want to just help you find the right medications for you. She wants to help you find the right solution for you. And so she spent a lot of time, where, do you have a business card or something up here? Yeah? She says, of course I do. So, AHP, FAARFM, bioidentical hormone specialist, anti-aging health provider. You're pretty awesome. Yeah? Talk for me.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, very good. All right, we'll switch you over to your presentation here. Come on. Y'all, it's Kim Roberts, right? Yeah. All right, here we go. And you should be, I get you there. There you go. All right. Kim, thank you.
We are going to talk a little bit, we are going to talk about hormones, but I also want to, talk about a few other things that are just roadblocks to us possibly, losing weight. I mean, how many weeks have y'all been in this now? 8? Okay.
8 years.
8 years. So first we're going to talk about hormones. And one question, that's really where my expertise is dealing with hormones. But one thing that I would say is people come to me often and say, are hormones going to make me lose weight? And the answer to that is no. Hormones just themselves do not make you lose weight, but if you have imbalanced hormones, which if you are over 35 in this room, I can just about guarantee you've got some imbalanced hormones. So I would say, what's the age group in here? Most everybody kind of at that range? Okay. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the hormones or estrogens. And I know a lot of guys may be shutting down thinking this doesn't apply to me, but au contraire, it actually does. But when we see a lot of estrogen dominance in women, and maybe some of you can relate to this, but you'll start to get a tire around the middle, the midsection, or you'll start gaining a lot more in your hips. We call it estrogen dominance, and it's not necessarily that you have too much estrogen, but what estrogen you have, if you don't balance it with other hormones, it will lead to some of those symptoms. So definitely weight gain in the middle section, and this can happen for guys as well, but it seems to kind of vary as far as the time period. So women, I see it more around 40, in their 35 and up, they'll start having some fluctuations with hormones. Which let me say this, a lot of people will, especially women, will say, when should I actually test my hormones? Well, personally, I think you really want to see what your hormones are doing when you're young, and that's what you want to maintain, because you think about it, when you were younger, which is when your hormones are probably the highest, most all of you had much more success at keeping your weight off. It was easier. Can we agree with that? Yeah. So, so around 35 for women, but if we could test and try to maintain those levels, I think you have a much more success. For guys, we start seeing that more around age of 50. Guys, what happens for you is you will take your testosterone and you begin to convert it to more estrogen. You start getting a belly, you start getting more man boobs, you start being more emotional, you'll start crying at the drop of the hat at little things. So those are pretty typical symptoms of estrogen. If we go on to testosterone, a lot of times we think of testosterone, if we think of Hans and Franz, pump you up kind of type thing, but testosterone is not just about guys. Women make testosterone as well, but if you look at men, why is it that they seem to have an easier way of losing weight than, say, women? Have you ever noticed that as far as their muscle mass? It seems to be that they can have a much easier time, and some of that may be due to the testosterone levels that they have. But besides just, sex drive is what a lot of people think of with testosterone, but it helps muscle mass. It also helps slow down rapid aging. If you sometimes have a blunted motivation, if you have a lower testosterone, where you're just like, I just don't want to do anything. I commonly see low testosterone in people that have chronic pain. If you know people that have chronic pains, like syndromes, they usually all have a much lower testosterone level, and when we get those levels up, they seem to, do a lot better. Of course, we can supplement testosterone, but a lot of the things that you're doing, and again, I am all about not having to take another pill or supplement in some way, but little things that you're doing, just like your exercise and sleeping, all can really help with your hormone levels. I think it would be interesting to see every single one of you, if we tested your levels at the beginning of this journey, and if we tested them much later, I think that you would see that they would be very different and actually would start improving. But there are some supplements that you can take that helps with testosterone and especially conversion, and they're listed here. But just really pay attention to zinc. Zinc is a really big deal, and we're gonna talk a little bit about that further in just a minute. But zinc is a really big deal that most people are deficient. The next thing we're going to talk about is thyroid. Although it's not a sex hormone, it's still a hormone, and I have tons of people that come through the door and they will say, I know I have a thyroid problem. We usually look at thyroid based on blood levels, but how many of you have had thyroid levels drawn and the test came back and the doctor said, your levels are perfectly fine, but you just know, that something is off? Okay. So the way that I feel about that is, and let me give you a little spiel about lab values. So with thyroid, we're taking a level called the thyroid stimulating hormone. But what's interesting about that level is it didn't tell you anything about your thyroid health. It is just a number that yells at your thyroid to try to get it to do something, but it doesn't still tell me about the actual health of your thyroid. So to put that in perspective, it's like my kids. I can yell at them and say, go clean your room up, but that does not mean that they clean their room. So the same is true with the thyroid. The thyroid stimulating hormone will yell at the thyroid to do something, and that's kind of the gold standard of what we use to tell, do you have a problem? But here's the thing, the party is way on down, and those are the levels that we're often not measuring. But before we ever had lab values back in medicine, the way that we would monitor thyroid was by reflexes. Do you remember a doctor ever hitting your knee to see how quickly you responded? That was one way, but the other way is by body temperature. So let me ask you a question. How many people in here run a low body temperature? If you run, when I was in school, we would talk about if you had a fever and what would you do, but we never really addressed what if you have a low body temperature. If you run a temperature of 97 or 96, there is somewhere at a cellular level you have got an underactive thyroid, and it will majorly impact your metabolism and your weight loss. And listed here, there's other signs that you can look at for thyroid. For example, you'll have more increased constipation, it'll affect your skin, you'll be more dry. One of the common things is just looking at the eyebrows. Women that have lost the outer portions of their eyebrow, that's a characteristic of a low thyroid. I've listed here some of the things that you can take to help with thyroid, and we have a product at Markram's called Selenio Iodine. It is an incredible supplement for the thyroid because you have to have these things to make this conversion, to really set the thyroid in motion. But one other thing I'm sure that Joe will talk about is how important it is to drink water in your weight loss. But I want to encourage you to really watch drinking tap water. So there's a lot of things that we have done from our municipalities to try to help us, but sometimes it's actually harming us. So tap water has a lot of fluoride and chlorine in there. Those things actually mimic or block iodine, which is one way that helps with your thyroid conversion. So I usually tell people, if you're going to drink your water, but make sure you filter it or have bottled water. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is cortisol, which deals with stress. And let's face it, we are all stressed out. If you live in the United States, you are stressed out because we live unrealistic lives. We're 24/7. We're go, go, go all the time. But we also need to realize that I'm talking about decreasing your stress, but if you have no stress, you're dead. So stress, to some degree, is good. So it actually, there is a value to having a little bit of stress, but if you have continued long-term stress, then it definitely will lead to a lot of binge eating. It'll affect your blood sugar issues. And how many of you have heard about insulin resistance? It can really impact how your insulin works. But I also say that I have found it interesting how stress affects women and men. Men in my life, this is them at Christmas, okay? They're happy, just laid back. Okay, this is me at Christmas, okay? Stress affects women, in my opinion, and very, very different from men. We seem to really, really internalize it. There are supplements that you can use to help you with keeping your cortisol level pretty leveled out. But one of the easiest things that people can do that's free is just deep belly breathing. And I have to be honest, before I came in here, I have a whole lot of stuff going on in my own life. At home, we're remodeling and things of that nature. And so before I came, I just sat in a room, and what I'll do one-sided nostril breathing. You just breathe in one side, hold the other side. And I know that sounds stupid, it probably looks stupid, but I challenge each of you in here to do that. You can do it while you're driving, but when you first do that, you may feel very lightheaded, but it makes a huge difference in that cortisol level and actually calming things down. When you wake up in the morning, your cortisol should be higher, and as you go throughout the day, it goes low, and then you go to sleep and you do it all over again. And there are ways in which we can actually measure cortisol. Probably one of the best ways is by saliva testing, which we carry that at Markham's if people wanted to test. But you can also look at physical symptoms. So for me, I have had periods of time where I know I was super stressed out. And if somebody came up and they, for example, if I worked out, and this is a big one for a lot of you in here, sometimes if I worked out, I actually felt worse afterwards than before. Have you ever seen that for yourself? And you need to pay attention to that because, and I know Joe, we talk about, he as he said earlier, we want to make it simple. Calorie in, calorie out. Do your workout. But here's the thing, if you are super stressed, you are actually making it worse for you if you are adrenally worn out or adrenally fatigued. It's actually going against you because working out is a form of a stressor. So you have to watch that. Another thing for me is my kids would come up behind me and startle me, and it would make me sick. If any of you ever experienced that, where somebody scares you and you get angry. I get angry, but then literally in my stomach, I just am nauseated, like I could throw up. That's another sign that there could be some adrenal dysfunction. And another thing, which I tell people to really pay attention to your cravings, types of things that you crave. If you crave a lot of salt, if you're the person that's like, I want to salt a dill pickle, okay, those type of people are usually dealing with some cortisol issues. We have told people don't eat salt, but actually, if you will take about a half a teaspoon of Himalayan salt, put it in about a half a cup of water, and just drink it and see how you feel. For people that have adrenal issues, it can really help stabilize them. So salt isn't always necessarily bad. And some other cravings just to watch out for, we got chocolate people. How many people are chocolate people? Okay, hey, we got a lot of chocolate people. That is usually associated with low magnesium. If you crave chewing ice, or you want something really cold all the time, that's usually an iron deficiency, which again can really impact your thyroid. Okay, so the next one is, although we don't think of it as a sex hormone, it is still a hormone, and insulin. You know, as you eat a lot more carbohydrates and even to some degree protein, your insulin helps move that into your organs for storage for energy. But if you keep eating so much of the carbohydrates, after a while, it just spills over. There's nowhere for it to go. And as time goes on, your insulin that you do have just gives up. And the insulin just gets where it just doesn't work at all. And we begin to see a lot of insulin resistance. And of course, when you have that, you're gonna have more fat. So insulin resistance definitely, you know, it leads to weight gain. And you can do labs on these types of things, but you can just look. You can just look. Y'all remember this from Saturday Night Live, where he was doing this? You know, I thought it was a great skit. But you can just look and tell, to some degree, if people are dealing with things like insulin resistance. Here's just a list of different supplements that have helped with that, and some of these supplements have actually, in trial studies, have done just as well as a lot of type 2 diabetic medications, which I would imagine there are people in here that have to take some of those. But I'm sure as you're working on this weight, you know, the one thing I want to encourage you about is you do not have to continue to be on that pill for forever. We're going to come off of it, okay? So just for a little while, we may be put on it. But really press your doctors about, hey, I want to get off of this. In my opinion, I think God gave me everything that I need. I have everything that I need. I seem to mess it up. You know, even with my toxicity and things that I'm putting in my body. But if we just get back to basics, we can do pretty well with these things. But just from your exercising, that will greatly help with your insulin resistance. How many of you have heard of leptin? Okay. There are more and more doctors that are beginning that will measure this on a blood level, but it's basically, you know, the hormone that says, hey, put down the fork. So if you have a BMI over 25, there's a good chance that you probably have a leptin disorder. And so give yourself a little break, because sometimes I know people may think, I just don't have enough willpower. But if your leptin levels are off, then it makes it very difficult for you to get that signaling that you can stop eating. One of the ways that you can help with your leptin levels is sleep, and I cannot tell you how important sleep is. If you are getting less than 7 hours of sleep, it will affect your weight. And there's even been studies that the risk of breast cancer for women went up by like 70%. I mean, it's ridiculous if you get less than 7 hours of sleep. So for many people, they're not sure why they can't sleep. It could be hormones, but we really need to get to the root issue rather than just take more and more sleeping pills, for example, like why can we not sleep? But we do want to make sure to focus on rest. To use. These are some labs that you can sometimes, I'm sure a lot of you have labs drawn, and maybe some of them were out of the normal range. And I don't remember if I said this, but the way that we get the ranges for our labs, so we take 1,000 people that walk through the door here, and we take their blood. We throw out the bottom 50 numbers and the top 50 numbers, and what's left over is what sets the ranges. Now let me tell you why that bothers me. Because personally, I don't probably want to be in the range of people that say maybe in Coffee County or areas. Perhaps I would rather be in the range of people that are in Aspen, Colorado. Because I guarantee you, their lab value may be very different than what we might see here. But when they do that, to me, that is forcing others to be sick. So here's an example. About 40, 50 years ago, a man's testosterone level, the normal value, was as high as 1,200. Today, if you go in and have your blood drawn, the normal level is like 700 or 800. That is a decline by half. So genetically, we can change, but that's over thousands of years, not 40 or 50 years. So there is something that we are doing that we're killing ourselves, and we need to take a look at that. But lab values, I don't just look for you to be normal, I want you to be optimal. When you are just, if the glucose level is a cutoff at 99 and you're at 99, that does not mean that you're at a good level just because you passed. I want to see you at ranges that are for disease prevention. So that's the types of things that I look at when I look at lab values. But look here, and it's interesting. Do you see what I had up here on cholesterol? Most of the time, you're thinking people are saying, keep your cholesterol low. You need cholesterol to make your sex hormones. So when you start having a cholesterol level less than that, you're not going to make sex hormones. And that's pretty common that you see in people that are like overtraining. That's a pretty common thing that you might see. Okay. So I mentioned earlier that there's 5 things that I would tell everybody that most people in America are low in. One is zinc, and you saw all the places where it helps with all the conversion. The other one's magnesium. The third is going to be vitamin D. I have never seen somebody have toxic or high level vitamin D. Most everybody is low. And I would say that a majority of you will go in and you might be 1 point over the normal range. That is not normal. You know, I want ranges around 60 to 80 on a vitamin D level. Minerals is the other thing. And then making sure you have good quality fatty acids. And you would be surprised that if you put that back into your diet, possibly take it as a supplement, that may be a game changer. That may be what you needed to get this stuff rolling. I'm sure that Joe has probably maybe mentioned gut health, but I am all about poop. I know this sounds really crazy. Y'all are like, oh my gosh, she has lost her everlasting mind. But I cannot tell you, if you want to lose weight, you have got to have bowel movements. If you are constipated, you are hoarding toxins, and the body's focus is on dealing with the toxins rather than burning this off. You know, one thing and I have so many people that are dealing with constipation, it's crazy, but one thing that you can do, besides doing prebiotics and probiotics and fiber and so forth, you can manually help your bowels move by rubbing from under your right breast over to your left, and then down towards your left leg. So you make a backwards L. And when you're lying down at night, just keep doing that, okay? You can manually help those bowels to stimulate them to get them going. If I have people that are really chronically constipated, I'll even suggest them doing colonic hydrotherapy. And there are some people in the area that will do that. But how many of you have heard of the term gut microbiome? Have you heard that term before? Okay, so that basically means in your gut you have a whole city of bacteria, and it is a big deal. When people are chronically sick and they're so overwhelmed, and they're like, where do I even start? The first place you always start in getting well is the gut. Your immune system resides there. I mean, and it's such a big deal that now they believe Alzheimer's, it originates here. They're calling Alzheimer's diabetes type 3. So in some cases, there's a thing where people will get this bacteria called C. difficile. Has anybody ever heard of that? You get it where you just keep going, and people, it can be dangerous because they can get dehydrated. But if there is an episode where antibiotics are not working, one of the things that they will do is they will do a fecal transplant, which sounds crazy. But in the United States, that's the only way it's approved for you to do that. But here's what's interesting. When you have a person, let's say that's sick, that has C. difficile, and they are pooping their brains out, and it's getting dangerous, they will go get maybe a donor, such as a family member. if the person that's sick is skinny and the donor of the family member is obese, that skinny person that's been skinny 40, 50, 60 years of their life will get fat. Now think about that. Just by the bacteria that you have in the gut. So one thing I really want you to focus on is looking up the gut microbiome as it deals with weight, because it's a game changer. And sometimes you can't always just give probiotics to, you can't just like specifically place one type of bacteria in there, but you're wanting to feed it. You're wanting to feed these bugs. And that will actually help you restore health. In other parts of the world, forget about doing the transplant because somebody's got C. difficile. There are functional or integrative medicine doctors that will send patients that have been chronically sick with like Lyme disease, MS, so forth. They'll send to other countries just to have a fecal transplant. That's how big of a deal it is in the gut. So I really want y'all to focus on that. Okay, so the next thing is genetics. And we all know there's a genetic aspect to probably a lot of things in our life, but I'm obsessed with genetics. It's really fun. And how many people in there have done E3 or Ancestry? Has anybody ever done those tests? Okay. When you get that test back, it's not going to tell you anything except that it's related to Steve Lowry here on front row. That's all I'm going to tell you. But and sometimes if you pay for a more extensive test, it will tell you some health-related things. One of the cool things that we have at Markman's is we have an app where we can help you with the data. We can show you how to do that, and we can upload it to this program that we have, and it will tell me your road bumps. Now, to me, all of us have road bumps, okay? But if we know what those road bumps are, we can navigate around them. Okay, so one of the road bumps that I want y'all to really remember this in the back of your head, there's a gene called MTHFR. It's just those letters. It's very common. It's very common. I have the genetic SNP or road bump. But if you have that gene, there is no way you can lose weight unless you take a certain type of B vitamin. So for me, if you've heard of B12, which the chemical name is called cyanocobalamin, if you give that to me with this genetic MTHFR, I convert it to cyanide. I cannot take it up at a cellular level to be utilized like I need. But that gene, if you have one of those genes, it's also very common in depression, and it just helps with a lot of metabolic pathways. But if you have that gene, you cannot lose weight. It's very simple. And there's a pharmacist named Susie Cohen, just remember that name, and she puts a lot of stuff out on the internet, but she has some very interesting data for you to look at. But methylation and that gene is huge, so keep that in the back of your mind. Let's see here. Okay. I think we all realize that we are super toxic, okay? When I do consults with people, we will talk about this in depth. If you look at us, look at how much ADD and autism we had. How many of you ever heard of that in school when you were in school? I didn't. So what's the deal? Why are we seeing so much autism and ADD? To me, there's something else that we're doing that's impacting that. But if you want to lose weight, you have to work on all of your detoxification pathways. And that's, in addition to pooping, that's, breathing, deep belly breathing, you've got to be urinating well, and you've got to be sweating. And I know sometimes people don't like sweating, but sweating, when you work out and you sweat, do you feel better afterwards? You're detoxing. You're helping your circulation get going. You're helping the lymph move. That's why it's working. And really want to take a look at that. And other ways that you can help with that process is even like dry skin brushing. How about rebounding? Do y'all know what that is? Rebounding, where you jump on a little mini trampoline. That really helps you as far as detoxing. But you look at like the deodorants we use. I don't encourage people to use antiperspirants at all because of the aluminum. You're literally just slathering on chemicals right into the lymph system. And we've started seeing the data of aluminum and how it impacts the brain and Alzheimer's. So, but besides just, when we think of toxins, you know, it's not just you want to look at your foods, but it's not just your foods. Think about all the perfumes, all the body lotions you're putting on. You know, I can control somebody at the pharmacy, I can control their pain with a patch. I mean, people with serious pain because of how it goes through the skin. Now just think about all the stuff that you are slathering on and you're absorbing every single day. And it can be a little overwhelming about removing some of these things, but they can impact you in a big way. Another one is Wi-Fi and cellular. And I know probably some of you have heard about 5G coming out. Somebody else, we were talking about that earlier. But cellular phones, you know, guys, we are seeing have such a low testosterone even in their 20s. And I think a lot of it's because of how they're putting their phones. It's close to the testicles. We've seen women, when they put their phones into the bra, that they'll come back and they'll have like a breast cancer. So these are a toxin. I mean, they're convenient, but they are, and you need to look at that as far as electrical and how that can impact you. You know, one thing is just really paying attention to how you feel when you walk in somewhere. And I'm bringing this up because I want to talk just real shortly about mold toxicity. But mold toxicity, hardly any health providers really talk about, but it is super, super common. If you've had a leak in your house and it hadn't really been dealt with, or you have mold in your house, mold will make you have a rapid weight gain that just came out of nowhere. So start thinking back. For myself, I've had some mold toxicity, and if I walk into a room and I can smell mold, I mean, right then, I'm like, ooh. I mean, I remember where I've been. Those are little things, innate ways that God has put there for you to realize that that's something toxic. Now, the reason why I mention it is because how many of you in here are teachers? Okay, schools are rampant. They're horrible. And I even know that there was a school in our county, because I had a lady come to me and talk to me about it, and she said, I know we have mold. I know we have mold. And she said, one wing of the whole school, every teacher in that wing got chronically sick with either cancer or something else. So mold is a big, big deal. And you cannot just spray it with bleach and get rid of it. I didn't know this. It just makes it white, and then it comes back with a vengeance. So in the Bible, it even says, get the stone and take it out and throw it out of the town, you know, or just burn it down. So really pay attention to some environmental factors and how that, but those environment things, I think we have focused so much on our food and how much we work out, but I'm telling you, environment is a big, big deal, and when you want to take a look at that. You know, you can call it whatever you want: high blood pressure, high cholesterol, arthritis, autoimmune, whatever you want to call it. But the root cause of these issues is chronic systemic inflammation, and that is what actually leads to weight gain in the long run. So, you know, if you've been in this now for 8 weeks, you know, perhaps maybe to have a change of the way in which you're thinking. Instead of like, I've got to lose this weight, look at it from the standpoint of what can I eat to reduce this chronic inflammation that's going on in my body. There's lots of labs that will tell you if you have chronic inflammation. If you have an elevated hemoglobin A1C, how many people know what that is? Hemoglobin A1C that deals with diabetes, it kind of tells you those numbers are going to be up. You know, those are symptoms of chronic inflammation that's going on in your body. And when you start reducing those, then the weight's going to come off. Even using things like fish oils and curcumin, actually has as good of a profile as things like Celebrex, believe it or not. I mean, it's a great anti-inflammatory. You look at the Indian population that cooks a lot with curcumin, they don't have as much arthritis type, disability type things going on. Okay, and the last thing I want to bring up is, all of you that are in here, we walk through the doors saying, I'm ready to lose this weight. But a lot of times there's an emotional connection, and for some people, and you really want to take a look at that as far as what's your emotional connection to some of the weight that you have. I had a while back, I had gotten sick and actually had this benign brain tumor that I had to have removed. And, for years, I kept identifying myself as, I'm Kim Roberts and I had a brain tumor. And I had to really stop and think about that because that was my identity. So, if I'm sitting here, I don't need to have my identity as, I'm Kim Roberts and I've got 25 pounds to lose. Really trying to think that in a different way will really help you. In one documentary that I would tell people to look at if you have Netflix, it's called Heal. How many people have Netflix in here? Who doesn't have Netflix? But it's very interesting because it really goes to the spiritual. There's a spiritual aspect as far as losing weight. And you do want to take a look at that. When people say, oh, I'm willing to give up, 25 pounds, no problem. But when you start losing some of the weight, sometimes you become uncomfortable. Believe it or not, it's a change, and that can be difficult. So that's going to end it for tonight. But I hope that we can, that's giving you some tools and some other ideas if you have hit some roadblocks and what you can do to possibly overcome that. Again, nutritional deficiencies are huge. The gut microbiome, big. Consider getting with us and we can maybe help you look through that and see if you've got some road bumps keeping you from getting where you want to go. And definitely, hormones as well. If we can help you with that, you can always set up consults with me. But hopefully that's just giving you some ideas and y'all are going to keep going forward, and I appreciate y'all listening. Thanks.
Good stuff? Yeah, interesting, right? So there's so many different things are at play when it comes to losing weight and just being healthy in general. I know she alluded to the fact that I've talked to you about gut health. We've not really talked a lot about gut health at this point. So super important stuff to take a look at. Those things definitely, all the things that she was talking about would definitely help you either get back started or accelerate your journey. So definitely, if you want to talk more about that, more specific about your situation, Kim's going to hang out for a little bit. She also does some sessions that you can, sit down with her one-on-one at the pharmacy. What do we call those? Consults. Yeah, they just left me. Zumba has me all messed up, y'all. I'm just like, anyway, it's just not my, anyway. So.
But did you feel the burn?
Oh, it was good. Yeah, I felt it. I felt lots of things going on while I was doing some Zumba. Anyway. This was live. I shouldn't have said that. Anyway. Seriously. Sure. Uh-oh. Sorry. No, seriously. Hey, Zumba really was a lot of fun, so I encourage you to stay for that. if you didn't stay at 5 o'clock. If you stayed at 5 and want to do it again, hey, hang out and do it again. You'll have fun. But you guys have an awesome week. And like I said, be watching for some kind of announcement tomorrow with what we're going to do about the 5K. If you have questions for Kim, she's going to hang out for a little bit. You can get a consult scheduled with her if you want to do that. But with that, you guys have an awesome week, and we will see you next Tuesday right here.